Sev Tok has been a experiencer since childhood. She's also an author, speaker, and a spiritual counsellor. Her first ET contact happened at the age of 10 and has continued on throughout her life. She kept it a secret for 45 years until September 2017, when she came face to face with a grey who burned 2 red X marks on her back. It prompted her to come out and write her book, You Have the Right to Talk to Aliens, and she joins us now. Hello, Sev, how are you?
Hi, Dean. Well, it's a pleasure to be with you and your viewers and your listeners. Thank you so much.
Well, it's good to have you here too. So what can you remember about that first ET contact?
My first ET contact. My first memory is from the age 10. And it continued for a couple of years until 12. And there was a being that would come visit me in a spaceship. And he visited me so many times that I've lost count. And I would be outside and see the ship, and it would come, and each time it came from a different direction, and it would hover over me, and I'd be looking at the bottom of this spaceship, and it would land, and then these stairs would come out, and then this being would come down. And I was so happy to see this being. It was like seeing a brother. And he looked human. His ears were just slightly different. They were a little bit more oblong, and he had dark hair, brown or black, and he also had dark clothes. I don't know if it was 2 pieces or 1 piece. And he would come just to check up on me, make sure I'm okay. And after each visit, I would then be plopped into my 3D 5th grade reality in my room. My eyes would just pop open like this. And I'm like, what am I doing here in this room? Like, I don't belong here. I belong with that being in that spaceship. And so, well, I have to get dressed and go to 5th grade now. And I didn't tell anybody. I could have told my parents because they were very open and they were believers, but I just never told anybody. Decades later, I started sharing this story. And what was very interesting about this experience was his last visit. His last visit, I was with a group of kids, and I had never been with a group of kids before. It was always just the 2 of us. And there were these children standing next to me. I didn't look into any of their faces, but together we were watching this spaceship just fly off into the distance, knowing that we weren't going to see him again. And there was sadness. And I knew, oh, it's time for me to do my work. I have to do what I have to do. And that was that.
Yeah. You said that you felt like he was a brother. So do you feel like you've met him before, maybe in another existence?
Yes. In another existence, if you want to call it another life, a past life, since there is no past or future, everything's happening at the present. So actually all of our past lives are our present lives, because we're having all kinds of different consciousnesses and all kinds of different realities at the same time. And yes, absolutely, I do have a tie to that being and to that group of beings.
What kind of things did he talk to you about?
I don't remember. I just know it was a checking up on me, and it was also just to make sure I was okay. It was really important that I was okay.
Okay. Now, what about as an adult? I mean, what kind of information did they relay back to you?
Well, as an adult, I've had many encounters. I think so far I've met 6 or 7 different types of beings. And they've given me a lot of information. The Greys have also given me a lot of information, and it was my contact with the Greys, as you had mentioned, in September 2017, which made me come out. That was a pivotal experience in my life because I couldn't hide it anymore. I'd been hiding my ET contact for decades. And I work with experiencers. I encourage experiencers to contact me. through my website and share their story with me in privacy. And I help them understand why it happened. These things just don't happen by accident. There's a reason why you see a UFO. There's a reason why you come in contact. And it's all for beneficial reasons. It's all to help you individually and to help us all collectively. It's to help mankind.
Okay. Now, there are 4 points that I was reading. You made some notes, and there's a hybridization program, DNA activation, our role in the galactic neighborhood, and our possible fate. Now, are they some of the things that they talk to you about?
Yes. The Greys gave me information about the hybridization program, DNA information, the galactic neighborhood, and our possible fate. And I've also been in contact with what I call the blue beings, and the blue beings have also given me information about DNA activation. The first time I came in contact with the Greys that I can remember was in 2012. And they showed me a baby in a tube. I actually drew a picture of it. I have pictures of these in my book. And this baby, I'm going to show you right here, this baby in a tube, yeah. And then standing behind me were 3 Greys. And when I turned to look at these 3 Greys, they told me telepathically that I can take my time, that they're not going to rush me, and that everything's okay. I can stay there and look at that baby as long as I want. I did not know why I was looking at that baby that had the bluest eyes I've ever seen in my life. Didn't make any sense to me. And then I popped back into my reality, and I just held on to that for a long time until I had an incident in Roswell in November 2016. And once again, I met with the Greys in Roswell. There's a little bit of story leading up to that too. And they gave me information about the hybridization program. And they told me, they reminded me of what the baby in the tube that they showed me. And they told me that there's several hybridization programs. So the one that they were talking to me about had to do with the Greys and the humans. And the Greys are looking for the DNA, if you could call it that, of sympathy and empathy, because that has been bred out of their species. And you have to have that in order to continue. So they're like splicing that into the hybrids to make sure they're very loving, very empathetic, and very sympathetic. So these embryos and these babies, there's billions of them because there's millions of people involved in the hybridization program. Many don't even know it because a lot of ET contact happens in an interdimensional, multidimensional fashion. And our brain has a hard time understanding it. So our brain would tell us that was a fantasy or that was a dream, but they're real events. And this is why a lot of people don't even realizing they're having ET contact, because they're allowing their brain to hijack their experience.
Right. I'm interested to hear about our role in the galactic neighborhood. I mean, do we even have a role?
Yes, everyone has a role. And our role is basically to love. We all came here with the shared purpose to love as much as possible. And that begins with ourselves. And that's where a lot of us aren't really very successful. And our role is to spread this love and to be loving and to just exist in that energetic frequency of love. That's the role that we all have. It is completely up to us whether we annihilate ourselves or annihilate this planet. It's not predestined, but it is definitely a possible fate. And so we are being watched very heavily to see what we do, because just like human beings have energy, and this table has energy, the planet has energy. And so the energy of the planet radiates out through the cosmos, through the galactic system, and it affects the entire galactic system. Our energy does. So we're being watched and guided and helped to try and transform us to a higher frequency existence, which means living more in a state of love than fear.
Right. Before I ask my next question, that's interesting you talk about that, because there was a man who walked this earth a couple of thousand years ago that preached the same thing. And I'm not sure of your spiritual beliefs, but do you think there's some connection there?
With Jesus and the ETs?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, very much so. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
First of all, what's an ET, an extraterrestrial? And that could be any kind of being. And it's unlimited how many ETs there are. It's unlimited how many different shapes and forms that consciousness can take. And so I do believe that he was channeling and he was in contact. What was he in contact with? Who was he in contact with? Well, I do believe that he was channeling source, the truth, sacred geometry, God, whatever you want to call it. There was some kind of channeling there, and also a heightened level of communication through the dimensions.
Right. The last of those 4 points that I wanted to ask you about is, I'm almost loath to ask you, our possible fate. I mean, is it good or is it bad?
It's both. It's up to us. It could be horribly wretched, or it could be beautiful. And this is what we're all experiencing right now in this time of COVID. We're being shown in a very clear way a possible beneficial way of existing. And it's being made very clear to us. We can see the benefits of not having to travel to work every single day. We can see the benefits of having more time off. We can see the benefits of being with our families. It's endless, all the benefits that are happening right now through this bizarre crisis. And we're getting a picture of, life can be a little slower and a lot more fulfilling. So what are we going to do? Some of us are going to make that transition. Some of us are not going to make that transition. I personally believe that there are going to be several who have had a huge aha moment right now and are making the changes to have a much more fulfilling life once this whole social distancing thing is over. We are in the transformation of creating a beneficial, happy fate.